I just want to do a short tutorial on something that I've encountered, kind of made a discovery on, and that's the light that you see emitting from the front of my scoops on my 2011 Yamaha VMAX. Those are the Angelizer halos. They're an LED ring, which a lot of you have probably seen if you visited any VMAX forum sites. Whenever I post a picture, a lot of people ask me about them, so I just wanted to give a short tutorial of a video and some still shots of how I go about installing them, and a discovery that my son and I made that makes it a lot easier. Circle around here and show you just a little bit. As you can see, they put out quite a bit of light. I'm not promoting any brand. Most of them come in increments of 5. I have 70 millimeter installed in the bottom and 80 in the top. Some people do 75 in the bottom. I like the 70 and the 80 because there's a good contrast in size, and I just think it looks more attractive. Doesn't block my airflow into my scoops one bit. Pardon my fingers getting in front of the camera there. Not a real experienced YouTuber, but I do want to get this message out so that people can see kind of what we've discovered. My son and I have discovered on how to make this job a little easier. I'll show you the switchback function on mine. I've got the bottom ones set to switchback for flashers or for blinkers, so you can have your indicators also that way. Just kind of a demonstration of what it looks like. It does get people's attention, and that's what a lot of my aim was, and I wanted to make it look kind of cool, so I think it achieved that too. So what I want to do is talk to you about an issue that I had with my first install, and that is over here on the top scoop. Not the top scoop, but the top hole in the scoop, the top intake. The actual hole in that intake is 78 millimeters. That's how it's manufactured by Yamaha. I'm sure they weren't thinking of us putting halos in them, so the halos come in 80 millimeter sizes. You jump down to 75 or 70, that gets extremely small for that hole. 80 is really ideal. What a lot of people are doing is they're taking the outer edge of this and they're grinding with their Dremel tool, and they're grinding that down. That can expose electrical connections, and it can also cause this white diffuser to delaminate from the printed circuit board that this is mounted on. What my son and I did some talking, and we came up with an idea. He's an engineering student, and we developed a ABS plastic riser that brings this, if you can see it in there, and I'll give you some still shots of all of this, but if you can see it in there, that brings that halo out in that taper, not so far as to be seen from the side, real obviously, but what it does is it brings it out to where that diameter gets bigger, and you can actually install that 80 millimeter halo without having to grind on it or do anything. Your sacrificial piece is that riser, which is what you put in there. You glue it in and stick it with 3M tape, which, as you can see, I need to trim out a little bit better around this edge, but I wanted to get this out since we've discovered this, and we're actually producing them. So if you'd be interested, feel free to message me in this video. I can get some information and get some to you, but it is proven quite helpful. So I'll go on and explain to you how this goes with some voiceovers and some still shots. I just want to show real quick, this is my first install. As you can see, there's a printed circuit board there. These are the ones I ground down to the 78 millimeter. You can see that the diffuser, the white diffuser, this is the exact same brand as what I'm about to install. We're going to install on my son's bike, get a better focus here. But you can barely see it, but there are 2 conductor plates in there, and when it rains, that will eventually short out and cause your halo to go all kinds of haywire. So the main purpose of this is to make it to where you don't have to grind on these things. But I just wanted to show you just how they get, and this is just after about 6 months of running out on the road. It'll be a lot better when they're not ground on.
Please excuse my lack of professionalism. This is my first YouTube video, but a little background noise here too. This is the version 1.0. You'll have to use your Dremel and grind on this to get your solder joints to fit down into it, and also along the outside edge to get your wire to go through the scoop. Because of this, we went ahead and developed a version 2.0, which is here. You'll see the 1/4 inch gaps in this. This allows a spot, if your solder joints are 1/4 inch or less, You can fit those right down in there and your wire can go right through, and then you just pop it in, and after you drill a hole in your mesh and wire right there at the 1 o'clock position, there'll be a picture later, so you can see how they pop right in there. They fit right into the scoop and rise your halo out just the way they need to be. Both versions will fit right in. This is one fully installed. As you can see on the top, it's set out just a little bit, but not enough to come out from the scoop. Don't even notice it when they're on, but that gets it out to where you don't have to grind on that halo. It's real nice. You can just put it in as is, and no damage done. You can pause this and kind of look it over. This is a lot of the tools that I use. You can see on the right all the halos and the drivers. The drivers are about the size of a 9-volt battery. But just pause it, take a look at these tools. You may need more or less. Depends upon what your method is, I guess. Just thought this would help. This is the LED flasher you'll need to look for on Amazon or eBay. Just type in 2-pin LED flasher, LED relay. You'll see this top little deal on the top that's kind of an ear, I guess you'd call it. We'll use that later. It's plug and play. This is the location under your right cover, side cover on your VMAX. That's the location of the original one that you're going to be replacing. It's real simple. Plug and play, like I said, the one that you'll find, if it's a 2-pin, should plug right into your connector. This is the rubber sleeve that I pulled off of the original and put on the aftermarket one, that ear that I was showing you earlier. It just slides right on there. You have to use a little bit of force, but it'll go on there. Make your install a lot easier when you put it back. And this is it installed under where the right cover is. I just put it right back on the mounting location that the other one was and plugged it in, and it was good to go. These are the halos that I prefer to use. You don't have to use them. You can use whatever you want. The 70 on top, the 80 on the bottom. Some people will want to go 75. It's going to fit tight. You may need to be calling me up if you want a 75 to get another riser for that size too. We could custom make one if you need. This is the adhesive that I use. Don't use this. This has a really short open time. It'll glue instantly. I'm changing to something else. Just find something that's compatible with ABS. You can find it at your local hardware store and make sure it's clear.
Some of your brands of halos will come with these 3 wire attachments. As you see right here, there's 3 of them on here. Those are going to get in the way. Those are meant to be clipped off if you're not going to use them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my wire cutters here, and I'm just going to clip them off. And I'll use some sandpaper if I need to smooth it up. If I need it to be perfectly smooth, I like it to be real smooth. But I'll just clip them off with my wire cutters here, and should be no problem.
This is just a quick picture of the version 2.0 glued right onto the halo, ready to go.
Okay, if you purchased our rings, you'll notice that in our description we had a version 1.0, which is a solid ring, and then we have a version 2.0, which has a 1/4 inch gap. Kind of gives a little bit of flexibility. But what this 2.0 does is we kind of thought ahead. If your solder joints on the back of your halo are less than a 1/4 inch apart, you can just set it on there, and that already gives you your gap and lets your wire fall in behind. You can see that very well. And you can just glue your adapter down to that, or your riser down to that. Now, if you have a halo that has solder points that are more than a 1/4 inch apart, you'll have to use your Dremel tool, and kind of makes it ugly, but you got to keep the inside of this ring very intact. So I've ground this one out for this particular used halo, and as you can see, it fits right in there. From the front you can see only halo and nothing, no riser or anything. So you'll have to get a little bit brave with your Dremel tool, grind this out a little bit, and then grind a groove along the outside edge in order to not show the wiring or the solder joint, and you'll have a nice flat surface just like you can see here that you can glue it down to. This is a used halo, that's why it looks so rough.
This is the 1/4 inch 3M mounting tape. You'll want to stick to the back of the riser to stick it in your scoop right to the screen.
Okay, in this part of the video I want to explain, this is the particular halo and wiring that we have. As you notice, it has a pretty good sized end on here, and it's got these pins right here that slide in, and they're connected on the end of the wires. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these wires from this connector, which we'll reinstall once we put it through the scoop. We're going to put it through at about the 1 o'clock position on the right scoop of the bike, and then on the left scoop of the bike it'll be over on the 11 o'clock position. But on this particular one, we're going to drill through about right here in order to put the wires through. We want to drill as small a hole as possible, so I just want to get a hold of the wire here, and I'll show you how most of these clips, no matter what brand you buy, are probably going to operate. So what you need to do is just get in here. There's a tab you can push down on, shove that in all the way, and push that tab down, and you can pull that wire out just really simply like that. And so what that leaves you with is two wires. As you can see, that's a lot narrower than your connector. So these, once this hole is drilled, are going to go through right here. They're going to go right through that scoop. All this will feed through, sit on top of your riser, and then that will sit right where it belongs.
This is just a real quick shot of where you need to drill your holes. On the right scoop, it'll be in the 1 o'clock position. On the left, it'll be in the 11 o'clock position. Just get it as far out as possible outside the livers in that plastic ring. I put electrical tape on there just to protect it from my drill bit, just in case there's a slip up. But you don't need it any bigger than your wires are. This is just a picture of it installed. Wires slid through the hole. Everything fits centered. It needs a little bit of adjustment, but it's not glued down yet. But it doesn't touch the edges. It's just a quick view of the inside after the wires are routed through. The top one on the right there shows the mesh reinstalled. This is my particular brand. You can disregard this if you've got a different brand that doesn't have drivers. But I just showed kind of how I wired them up and got them good to go. Just a little closer shot of that same thing.
Well, as you can see, we've got both halos mounted in the scoop. The bottom one goes in just the same as the top, so I didn't document that. You just drill a hole, but don't put a riser in, and you just stick it with some 3M mounting tape, and it's good to go. Everything's wired up. Flip it over here, you'll be able to see. Got my wires ready. The top one on this particular brand comes with a nice mesh sheath that I peeled off of there, and sorry, I didn't have my camera right. That I peeled off of there. Yeah, the 70mm doesn't come with that, but I guess you get the better stuff with the bigger rings. But anyway, it's ready to go, and come over here to the bike. We've got one turn signal still on. This particular one, my son's bike, has the smoke turn signals. You'll see the other one hanging right here. I've already removed it, and so I will trace out the wires, find my flasher wire, find my driving light wire, and wire those up according to the instructions of the halos. Every halo may have a little bit different instructions. I will leave most of that up to you, but I will point out here with some still shots which wires go to which as far as flashers, driving light, and ground. When you do remove these turn signals, if you remove these two bolts right here, this will allow this to hinge out, which allows, if you use a little force, you can get this out of there. Otherwise, it's quite hard to get it through this hole right here. But then when you loosen those two bottom bolts, that allows this to hinge out just enough to squeeze it through.